The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Raine Musñgi. Catch up with us on Business Brief. U.S. President Donald Trump escalating his trade war. Trump is pushing through with his long-promised tariffs of up to 25% on automotive imports. He says the new taxes will take effect on April 2, the same date he plans to announce the reciprocal tariffs on countries he holds responsible for the bulk of the U.S. trade deficit. The Center for Automotive Research warning the tariffs could drive costs of cars higher for consumers by thousands of dollars.
We're going to charge countries for doing business in our country and taking our jobs, taking our wealth, taking a lot of things that they've been taking over the years. They've taken so much out of our country, friend and foe, and frankly, friend has been oftentimes much worse than foe. And this is very modest. And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
Well, Canada will soon respond to new tariffs on imported vehicles announced by U.S. President Trump and could impose retaliatory measures against the United States. Prime Minister Mark Carney said on Wednesday Trump's move was a direct attack and told reporters he would be convening a high-level cabinet meeting on Thursday to decide on a response. The tariffs look set to damage the highly integrated North American auto industry. Canada has already announced a package of retaliatory tariffs totaling $108 billion that it said would be imposed in stages depending on what Trump did. Carney seeks to talk with Trump soon.
We're standing together, standing for Canadian workers across levels of government, and I would add that Premier Ford and I have discussed this already at length, and we will have more discussions in terms of our overall approach. But together, we are stronger. It would be appropriate that the President and I speak, given the action that he's taken. I'm sure that will happen soon. I'm not going to give you a precise timing on that. In terms of options, which was the second part of Ms. Martin's question, even during a caretaker period of government, we have anticipated this possibility. We have put in place the mechanisms so that if it is appropriate for retaliatory tariffs, and there's many considerations to be taken in those regards, and I want to have the meeting of our cabinet, Canada-U.S. cabinet, other considerations. We need to see the details of the executive order.
And this just in, U.S. President Trump suggested further tariffs would be imposed on the European Union and Canada if they work together to do economic harm to the U.S. In a late-night Truth Social post, Trump said large-scale tariffs far larger than currently planned would be placed on them. Shares of Asia's automakers fell after U.S. President Trump announced he will impose tariffs on cars not made in his country. As of Thursday, 2 p.m. Philippine Standard Time, Asian equities also dropped alongside Japanese automakers Toyota and Honda, which fell at least 2%. Nissan, which has 2 plants in Mexico, also declined 2%, and Mazda Motor lost over 5%. Mitsubishi Motor gained 0.33%, though, but South Korea's Kia Motors, which is manufacturing plant in Mexico, dipped almost 4%. Shares of Chinese automakers NIO and XPeng also fell more than 3% and 1%, respectively.
Japan has made substantial investments and generated significant employment in the United States. This is not the case for every country. We invest in America, we hire people, and we pay the highest wages.
These new tariffs will go into effect April 2. White House aide Will Scharf explained that the tariffs will apply to foreign-made cars and light trucks, in addition to existing duties. He said these tariffs are also expected to bring in over $100 billion of new annual revenue to the U.S., but the full details of the proclamation remain unclear as most cars consist of parts from various countries. Investors pared bets on riskier investments due to concerns about growth in the world's largest economy. Indonesia's currency neared a record low against the U.S. dollar Wednesday as the country's central bank said it is ready to intervene to stabilize the rupiah. LSEC data showed the rupiah was trading at 16,580 per U.S. dollar Wednesday, nearing an all-time low of 16,800 touched in June 1998 during the Asian financial crisis. That's just after the fall of Indonesia's authoritarian leader, General Suharto. Investor confidence in Indonesia has been waning as worries grow about President Prabowo Subianto's massive social spending plans, budget cuts, and the cancellation of a tax hike. Prabowo's ambitious program to provide free meals to more than a quarter of his people at a cost of $4.29 billion has brought scrutiny from investors. The launch of a new sovereign fund, Danantara Indonesia, has also raised concerns over potential political interference, despite Prabowo's insistence that the fund could be audited anytime and by anyone. Russia's President Vladimir Putin's order for a moratorium on attacking energy infrastructure in Ukraine is still in force and is being fulfilled by Russia's armed forces. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Wednesday, oil refineries, oil and gas pipelines, and nuclear power stations are among the targets on which Russia and Ukraine agreed to temporarily suspend strikes for 30 days. The United States reached separate deals on Tuesday with Ukraine and Russia to cease fighting in the Black Sea and pause attacks against energy targets, with Washington agreeing to push to lift some sanctions against Moscow.
Yes, indeed, there is a temporary moratorium, which is valid for 30 days, starting from March 18th. It was on March 18th that the two presidents, President Putin and President Trump, had a telephone conversation. President Trump proposed declaring such a moratorium, and Putin agreed. As for whether this means or does not mean that Russia may withdraw from the agreement after the recent attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces on Russian energy facilities, I can only repeat what I said the day before yesterday and yesterday. Putin's order regarding the moratorium is in effect and is being implemented by our armed forces. As for the Black Sea Grain Initiative, as stated in the document published on our website, it can be activated after a number of conditions are met.
Well, the United Nations welcomes agreements from Russia and Ukraine to pause their strikes in the Black Sea, even as rhetoric from Moscow and Kyiv suggests that they remain far apart. The UN says an agreement on freedom of navigation in the Black Sea to ensure the protection of civilian vessels and port infrastructure will be crucial contribution to global food security and supply chains. Russia withdrew from the Black Sea Initiative in July 2023, complaining that its food and fertilizer exports faced serious obstacles.
The Secretary General welcomes the discussions and reported commitments reached in Saudi Arabia by the United States, the Russian Federation, and Ukraine. Reaching an agreement on freedom of navigation in the Black Sea to ensure the protection of civilian vessels and port infrastructure will be a crucial contribution to the global food security and supply chains, reflecting the importance of trade routes from both Ukraine and the Russian Federation to global markets. The United Nations has been working consistently, especially following the letters the Secretary General sent to President Zelensky, Putin, and Erdogan on February 7th of 2024, putting forward a proposal for the safe and free navigation in the Black Sea. The United Nations also remains closely engaged in the continued implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Russian Federation on facilitating access of Russian food and fertilizer to global markets to address global food security. The Secretary General's good offices remain available to support all efforts towards peace.
On the lighter side, Russian police and Russia's Federal Security Service have found a collection of ancient gold coins on one of the antique markets in Moscow. The Russian Interior Ministry reported after historical expertise made by Russian State Historical Museum and consultations with Interpol, it was confirmed that the collection of 79 coins was stolen a while ago from the Archaeology and Art Museum in Saint-Rémy in France. The collection being valued at around $654,000. Russian authorities are now in touch with French colleagues on returning the collection to its permanent display in Saint-Rémy. You have to pause for a few reminders, but the biggest business stories from around the country and the market's closing data are up next. Keep it here on Business Brief, only on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Welcome back to Business Brief. Arthaland says demand for ultra-luxury properties is growing. Let's get details from our correspondent, Sujin Kim, who joins us on the line. Sujin, go ahead.
Yes, Raine, amid oversupply concerns in Metro Manila's mid-market condominium sector, the country's ultra-luxury real estate market is taking off, attracting tycoons, business veterans, and a rising class of younger affluent investors. Arthaland's latest development, with units priced between 150 million and 400 million pesos, offer not just expansive living areas, but also hospitality-trained staff, including butlers educated at the International Butler Academy in the Netherlands. With only 37 units in the building, each unit spans from 288 to 580 square meters. Industry insiders say the demand for ultra-exclusive, low-density development is not just steady, it's growing. Key demand drivers include empty nesters, downsizing from sprawling estates, seasoned businessmen seeking to reward themselves, and even second-generation conglomerate leaders looking for convenience and lifestyle elevation. The company also underscores its commitment to sustainable design, embedding energy and water efficiency into the building specs. And those are latest updates from Taguig City. Back to you, Raine.
Thank you so much for that report, Sujin Kim. The Securities and Exchange Commission is holding the line on its 20% minimum public float rule for initial public offerings, reinforcing its commitment to market depth and efficiency. Under SEC Memorandum Circular Number 13 of 2017, the minimum public ownership threshold was raised from 10% to 20% to enhance liquidity, price discovery, and corporate governance. Following discussions with the Philippine Stock Exchange, the SEC is allowing exemptive relief for a 15% float, but only under strict conditions. Companies must raise their public ownership to 20% within 24 months and meet other regulatory criteria. As of March 25 this year, no IPO applicant have sought this relief. The SEC says it remains committed to a fair, transparent, and stable capital market. Singapore-based NCS is expanding its footprint in the Philippines through a joint venture with Globe Telecom, acquiring a 51% stake in its solutions firm Yondu. The deal will scale NCS's local workforce to over 1,200 professionals, accelerating its regional expansion and strengthening its global delivery network. The transaction, valued at 1.87 billion pesos, will see Yondu rebranded as NCS Philippines. NCS CEO Ko Pien said the move will drive AI-led innovation and transformation, particularly in the telecom sector. Completion is subject to regulatory approvals. A planned zero remittance day on April 2 has raised concerns about its potential economic impact. Overseas Filipino workers send an average about $12 million a day, and a one-day halt could mean significant losses for families relying on those funds. RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort tells the Bilyonaryo News Channel that the real impact will be felt by the recipients, families who depend on remittances for essentials like food, rent, and utilities. Now, while the broader economic effect might be minimal in the short term, a prolonged remittance strike could slow consumer spending, affect local businesses, and even prompt policy responses from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas.
Well, that would really compel, so to speak, the continuous sending of remittances, the combination of those factors. And, it's really hard to tell. It's really incumbent, it's really a deliberate choice by those remitting the OFWs on whether or not to send.
The Philippine economy may again fall short of its growth targets in 2025 and 2026, raising concerns about the country's ability to maintain momentum amid global volatility. Moody's Analytics economist Sarah Tan forecasts growth of 5.9% next year and 5.8% in 2026, both below the government's 6 to 8% target range. Tan cites global headwinds, including uncertainty over U.S. tariff policies, as key factors weighing on the outlook. In 2024, the Philippine economy grew by just 5.6%, falling short of a target of the second straight year due to weak consumer spending and lower agricultural output. Tan says while private consumption and investments remain core drivers to remain resilient and attractive to investors, the Philippines must double down on structural reforms, enhance productivity, and build a business environment that can withstand geopolitical shocks, especially as the global trade landscape grows more complex and competitive. While growth projections may be under pressure, one bright spot remains: the country's banking system. The Philippine banking sector's credit profile is expected to stay stable, a positive sign for investors and businesses looking for financing in an uncertain global environment. Fitch Ratings cites strong macroeconomic fundamentals as a key reason for its outlook. It highlights the Philippines' resilient medium-term growth potential and the continued strength of local banks, driven by robust loan demand and sound balance sheets. Fitch recently upgraded the country's banking sector operating environment score to BBB- from BBB+, and also raised the viability ratings of local banks by one notch. On to some more headlines. All hands on deck to ensure security for tomorrow's planned birthday celebrations for arrested ex-President Rodrigo Duterte. In his bailiwick of Davao, supporters will hold a program, prayer rally, and motorcade to show their solidarity with Duterte. Now, while the situation remains normal, law enforcement forces are not taking any chances. National Police say they're doubling down on security, especially as the local campaign period also starts tomorrow.
Sa darating nga po na Biyernes ay magsisimula na rin po yung local campaign period, kaya ang instruction po ng ating Chief PNP ay dagdagan pa po natin yung mga kapulisan po nating madideploy doon po sa mga areas of engagement, pati na rin po doon sa mga areas of public convergence para masiguro po na yung mga kapulisan po natin ay naandyan po sa kalsada at sa mga pangunahing areas po para mabilis po ang magiging responde po natin in case may mga reported incidents po tayo.
Anti-Duterte groups also planning to rally this Friday to continue their call for Duterte to be held accountable for alleged crimes against humanity. Preparations for celebrations abroad are also in full swing. Supporters are expected to gather in various countries, including the U.S., Canada, and the Netherlands, where Duterte is currently being held. On At the Forefront anchor, attorney Karen Jimeno is in The Hague and spoke to some Filipinos who are joining the events.
Ano pong plano nyo sa birthday ni former President Duterte?
Mag-picnic kami doon sa labas ng detention center.
Magdala po ng food to share.
May maglilechon nga daw eh.
Opo, may magdadala po ng lechon. Totoo yun.
Pero sino pong nag-organize?
Lahat actually.
Lahat actually. Suggestion po, tapos kapag na pagkasunduan, then yun ang gagawin lahat ng mga of course, sumusuporta kay Tatay Diggs.
Ano pong birthday message nyo for Tatay Digong?
Tay, relax ka lang dyan. Mahal ka namin. Huwag kang mag-alala. Nandito kami lagi sa likod nyo. Kahit ano pang mangyari, hindi ka namin pababayaan. Salamat sa kabutihan mo rin na binigay mo sa amin at saka sa aming mga anak.
They also start their show of support will not end on Duterte's birthday.
Kung nandito ako ngayon, babalik ako bukas, may darating na namang ibang Pilipino para mag-support ni PRRD. I think they will stay here for 4 or 5 days and babalik na naman sila doon tapos may pupunta na naman dito para walang hinto ang suporta namin kay PRRD.
So meron kayo mga grupo na nag-uusap-usap na talagang mag-alternate kayo, magrelyebo para laging may pupunta.
Palaging may mag-ano.
On to the markets now. The Philippine shares fell back into the red on Thursday. The main index gave up almost 0.5% to end the day at 61.39. Decliners doubled advancers 127 to 63, with value turnover at 4.5 billion pesos. The industrial and services sectors pulled down the market, with water distributor Manila Water losing more than 3% and power distributor Meralco falling 2.25%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 57 pesos and 56 centavos to the US dollar, stronger than Wednesday's close of 57.69. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us again on tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Always on time.